Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith TB. Here are some stories making rounds just beyond the continent. And a rare political divide is now emerging in the United States, and it centers around the controversial case of Jeffrey Epstein. While the billionaire sex offender died in custody nearly 5 years ago, his name continues to stir outrage and now even threatens to drive a wedge between Donald Trump and his loyal MAGA base. For News Central, international correspondent Afia Hagen has the story.
Jeffrey Epstein was a financier with powerful friends and a dark past. In 2006, he was first charged with sex offences after allegedly molesting a 14-year-old girl. A plea deal kept him out of serious jail time. But in 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time for trafficking underage girls. Prosecutors said he built a network to abuse dozens of minors. He pleaded not guilty, but before trial was found dead in his cell. Official cause, suicide. That mystery sparked conspiracy theories, fueled by broken cameras, missing footage, and high-profile names, including Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. The Justice Department says there's no secret client list, but that hasn't satisfied Trump supporters who demand transparency. Trump once promised to release the files, but since returning to office, his administration has offered little. A recent video meant to disprove Epstein was murdered failed to convince. It even appeared to be missing a crucial minute of footage. Now even some Republicans are breaking ranks. House Speaker Mike Johnson is urging the Justice Department to make the files public, while Democrats push for full disclosure. Trump has called it boring stuff, but his supporters aren't buying it. As the pressure mounts, this case and its secrets continue to haunt America's political elite. Now Trump seems to be bowing to the backlash.
It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
So far, no smoking gun, but the appetite for answers hasn't gone away. And for Donald Trump, this is no longer just a scandal about Epstein. It's a test of trust with his own base. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
And now to discuss this more, we are joined by foreign policy analyst Bolu Michael B. Mr. Michael B., many thanks for joining us. What are the potential political consequences for the Trump administration given the backlash from its own base over the handling of Epstein's related files?
All right, thank you so much for having me. And, I think there's going to be a level of a loss of trust, from Trump supporters, the MAGA caucus, the MAGA base, because they're going to feel let down, especially since President Trump promised earlier full disclosure of the Epstein case. And we can also see signs of internal division. We can see a backlash, it shows crack within the MAGA caucus. This could affect the Republican Party and the unity of, the Trump supporters ahead of elections. And we can also see the pressure from media as well. The issue is giving the media something to chew on, something to write about. Media outlets, they're having more room to question President Trump's transparency and leadership. And also the opposition, that is Democrats and independents, might take the case, might use the case, to their advantage. They might take the backlash to challenge Trump's image of accountability, of transparency, and if they are able to solve his image, it might trickle down to the Republican Party and affect the party in future elections.
It makes you wonder about when it comes to transparency and most importantly accountability, especially with an individual like President Donald Trump. But how might the Justice Department's decision to release only, quote, credible information impact public trust in the government itself, the government transparency and accountability? It's one thing when it comes to the president, the individual, Donald Trump, but his government as a whole, how would it affect public trust?
Okay, yeah, you see, some people that may accept it. Some people may feel that the government is hiding the full truth. They might also doubt the process. People might begin to question what does credible mean? How is credible defined? What's the threshold for credibility? Whether they'll question whether political interests are being influenced about whether politicians are influencing what is going to be released. There might also be a loss of confidence in the Department of Justice as well as the FBI. I personally have admiration for the FBI, but if they don't handle cases like this, the public trust in both departments might go down. And it could also fuel conspiracy theories. People will, if there's no transparency and accountability in the process, people will begin to come up with different ideas, different stories, their own version, their own thinking, and that might confuse even the investigator themselves or even the public at large. Some conspiracy theories they can go for so long that it ends up becoming or sounding like the truth. And I'm sure that the public would not like to have such situation in this kind of high profile case.
I mean, to what extent does the political pressure from influential groups or support groups such as MAGA supporters shape government disclosure practices?
Yeah, well, politicians and agencies, when it comes to high-profile cases like this, they often, they often feel that pressure, especially from powerful groups like the MAGA caucus, and leaders may feel the need to act or say something or make public statements just to kind of satisfy this strong base, even before official investigations are completed, and there's a risk in that as well, in that different politicians saying different things, it might actually, confuse the public. And the public pressure, might force agencies to rush or kind of alter the kind of information they want to disclose to the public. And they might just release the information they feel that the public will be able to accept. Because it can fuel, it can encourage what I'll call selective transparency, whereby they are releasing some things so that it won't cause public outrage, and while not disclosing certain information, and that's not good. Governments just releasing enough to calm the political supporters down, I think it's not the best way. And that's how these strong groups can shape government disclosure practices.
I mean, just could appointing a special prosecutor or issuing executive actions as reportedly being, considered by this government effectively going to restore credibility in this type of case or similar cases that might arise?
Well, personally, I think it's a great idea. If it's done well, it might show a level of seriousness and independence of this enforcement agency. It might also give the public, the hope that justice is going to be served. However, it doesn't come without its own risk. If the public feel that it's politically motivated, then it's not going to restore their trust. And if the result of the investigation, for example, is taking a lot of time, it will frustrate the public. I think what's more important, or the most important thing, is that the process must be transparent. The process and findings, they need to be clear. They need to be transparent. They need to be open to the public in order to be able to rebuild the faith they have in the government.
Well, I must say thank you so much, Bolu Michael B. He's a foreign affairs analyst who joined us live to give us insight following MAGA's fallout with Donald Trump over the release of Jeffrey Epstein's files. Once again, many thanks. Still in the U.S., the President of the United States, Donald Trump, said that he was not currently planning to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, but added that he was not ruling it out. Trump's mixed messaging after months of escalating attacks on the independent central bank chief sent 30-year U.S. Treasury bond yields surging above 5%. Trump noted that he would in any case be able to make a change at the top of the Fed when Powell's term ends next year. The U.S. leader has repeatedly lashed out at Powell for not lowering interest rates more quickly, calling the central banker a, quote, numbskull and, quote, moron recently.
He does a terrible job. He's
It's costing us a lot of money, and we fight through it. It's almost, the country's become so successful that it doesn't have a big impact, but it does hurt people wanting to get a mortgage. People want to buy a house. He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in and extended him, but they did. So, no, we're not planning on doing anything. We're very concerned. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed, building a renovation, and they have a close to $900 million cost overrun. I have people that I've known a long time. They're calling me, begging for the job. You know what you need there? A smart person with common sense, but you need a very smart person for that job. I think it's one of the easiest jobs in government. You show up once a month and you make a statement about where the economy's going, and we're going to raise or lower interest rates. It's probably the easiest job I've ever seen.
Israel has bombed the Syrian army headquarters in Damascus after warning the Islamist-led government to leave the Druze minority alone in its Swata heartland, where a war monitor says sectarian clashes have killed nearly 250 people. Now, Syrian government forces on Tuesday entered the majority Druze city of Swata in the country's south with the stated aim of overseeing a ceasefire agreed with the community leaders after clashes with local Bedouin tribes left dozens dead. However, witnesses reported that the government forces joined with the Bedouin in attacking Druze fighters and civilians in a bloody rampage through the city. The fighting marks the most serious outbreak of violence in Syria since government forces battled Druze fighters in Swata province and near Damascus in April and May, leaving more than 100 people dead. In the meantime, hundreds of demonstrators gathered just outside the Syrian parliament in Damascus to protest action against recent sectarian clashes and Israeli airstrikes. The protest follows deadly violence in the Druze majority region of Swata, where nearly 250 people have been killed amid escalating tensions. Israel confirmed it had targeted Syrian army headquarters in Damascus, warning the Islamist-led government to cease its actions against the Druze minority in Swata. The strikes represent a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict, highlighting the fragile security situation in the region. The protesters demanded accountability and urged the government to protect minority communities, as well as emphasizing the urgent need to end the bloodshed affecting their people.
اليوم نتظاهر ضد سفك الدماء اللي عم يصير من قبل كل الطوائف، كل الدم السوري غالي، كل الدم السوري واحد. ما سكتنا وقت مجازر الساحل، ما سكتنا وقت انتهاكات النظام، وهلا ما لازم نسكت على دم اهلنا بالسويدة وكل دماء المدنيين اللي عم تنسفك. جاي اليوم نتظاهر ضد الدماء يلي عم تنسفك، دماء السورية، وخاصة اليوم دماء أهلنا بالسويدة وقبلها بالساحل. الكرة عم تنعاد، نفس النظام الأسدي ما فرق أي شيء عنه. وإذا ضلينا ساكتين رح يروحوا على الطائفة اللي بعدها، وبعدها رح يكملوا على السنة، وما فرقت، هي بس عم يكفروا أي حدا. فدمنا غالي ودم أهلنا.
Still on the Israeli strike on Syria, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio have voiced concern after ally Israel struck Syria's army headquarters and said the violence impeded efforts to bring stability to the war-torn country. Rubio spoke while hosting a memorandum of understanding signing ceremony on nuclear cooperation with Bahraini Foreign Minister, and that's Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani. In fuller comments afterward, Rubio did not directly reference Israel, but spoke of the clashes in majority Druze city of Swata that Israel cited for its intervention. President Donald Trump has staunchly backed Israel, including in its military campaigns in Gaza and Iran.
Signing this MOU reinforces our two countries' determination to prevent the proliferation of nuclear or other weapons of mass destruction as an essential element of regional security. The Prime Minister, the Kingdom of Bahrain, stands shoulder to shoulder with the United States in seeking stability in the Middle East. And I want...
So we're talking to both sides, all the relevant sides on this, and hopefully we can bring it to a conclusion, but we're very concerned with it.
You're watching news making headlines just beyond the continent. Let's go on a short break. We've got plenty more beyond the continent. After the break, stay with us. And welcome back. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says ministers in the last Conservative government have serious questions to answer over a secret resettlement plan for thousands of Afghans after a data breach endangered their lives. Parliamentarian Speaker Lindsay Hoyle said the affair raised significant constitutional issues after it emerged that the previous government had obtained a court order banning media coverage and preventing any scrutiny by Parliament. Thousands of Afghans who worked with the UK and their families have been brought to Britain under the programme following the leak. But the 2022 breach and the resettlement plan to protect those involved from potential repercussions only came to light on Tuesday after a court super gag was lifted.
There's always been support across this House for the United Kingdom fulfilling our obligations to Afghans who served alongside British forces. We warned in opposition about Conservative management of this policy, and yesterday the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction, a secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Ministers who served under the party opposite have serious questions to answer about how this was ever allowed to happen. The chair of the Defence Committee has indicated that he intends to hold further inquiries. I welcome that and hope that those who were in office at the time will welcome that scrutiny.
European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen has unveiled a proposed €2 trillion budget for the European Union covering the period from 2028 to 2034. Von der Leyen calls this budget most ambitious ever, aims to address Europe's evolving challenges and strengthening its global position. However, the proposal has faced criticism, with some lawmakers expressing concerns over the centralization of funds. The European People's Party also raised questions about the shift in funding priorities. The proposal now awaits approval from all 27 EU member states and the European Parliament.
It is a budget that matches Europe's ambition, that confronts Europe's challenges, and that strengthens our independence. The budget is larger, it is smarter, and it is sharper. It is a budget that delivers for our citizens and our business, our partners, and our future. The next MFF will be the most ambitious ever proposed.
Around 200 farmers protested in Brussels against the European Commission's proposal for the 2028-2034 budget, expressing concerns over cuts to the Common Agricultural Policy. The demonstrators threw pairs of boots in front of the Commission headquarters, demanding a more ambitious agricultural policy. Farmers fear that the Commission's plan, which includes merging key agricultural funds into a single national level budget, will reduce direct support and overlook regional differences. The protest took place as the European Commission unveiled its draft long-term budget, which proposes significant reforms and budget reductions for agriculture.
En tous les cas, le sentiment très largement partagé par mes collègues agriculteurs, c'est que Mme von der Leyen n'a pas entendu le message délivré début 2024 avec ces manifestations d'agriculteurs partout en Europe. Comment peut-on à ce point faire œuvre de surdité. Vous savez, ce que les agriculteurs disent, c'est on veut vivre de notre métier, on est fiers de nourrir les Européens, on est fiers de la manière de produire qui est encore une fois une des plus durables. Et quand on nous parle de Mercosur, quand on nous parle d'échanges qui, de notre point de vue, ne sont pas loyaux, eh bien, il y a des vraies raisons de se mobiliser. Et je suis sûr que les agriculteurs qui, pour nombre d'entre eux, sont en ce moment dans les moissons, dans leurs champs, avec leurs animaux, et qui ne pouvaient pas être là aujourd'hui, auront à cœur de se mobiliser cet automne.
But it's very dangerous situation for the people and the European people, because the agriculture is not an economy sector, but is a social, is a future, is a model about the new generation and the health of our population.
The European Union's Migration Pact is facing renewed focus on deportation measures as a central component of its successes. A leading EU-funded migration and advisory body has stressed that the removal of asylum seekers whose claims have been rejected is essential to the credibility and enforcement of the new system. The Migration Pact, adopted in 2024 and scheduled to take effect in June 2026, introduces tougher border procedures and aims to streamline asylum applications across member states. It seeks to strengthen the EU's capacity to manage migration, reduce irregular entries, and ensure fair responsibility sharing. The push for an effective return policy reflects growing pressure on EU institutions to deliver a more effective and unified response to migration challenges.
Ich glaube, dass es sehr wichtig ist, dass auch im Sinne des Pakts eine gut funktionierende Rückkehrpolitik etabliert ist. Und das hat auch sehr viel mit der Akzeptanz der Bevölkerung zu tun. Wenn jemand registriert, jemand kommt, bekommt kein Asyl und bleibt aber dann trotzdem und es passiert eigentlich nichts, ist das ein sehr schlechtes Zeichen, auch für Rechtsstaatlichkeit, auch für die ganzen Instrumente eines Staates, für die Akzeptanz. Daher muss da was passieren, das ist keine Frage. Ich bedauere sehr, wenn es nach wie vor negative Einzelfälle gibt. Die können wir auch nicht verantworten. Aber für das, was wir aufgebaut haben, für diesen Trainingslehrgang, da haben wir die volle Verantwortung und der läuft gut.
And off to Costa Rica, where the country's Supreme Court has asked Congress for the first time ever to strip the country's president of his immunity from prosecution to be tried on corruption charges. President Rodrigo Chavez was accused by the Attorney General of forcing a communications services company hired by the presidency to give $32,000 to his friend and former image advisor, Federico Cruz. The top court's unprecedented request comes against the backdrop of a clash between the judiciary and Chavez's a conservative economist as well as a former World Bank official. Attorney General Carlo Diaz accuses the 64-year-old president of bribery, a crime punishable by up to 8 years in prison for public officials. The court also asked for Culture Minister George Rodriguez to be stripped of his immunity for the same reason. I wonder if that can happen on our continent, but that's what we can take from beyond the continent. Now, do remember, if you see anything out there, make sure to send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274. Download the Avil TV on your smart TV and watch us live. And you can also stream us live on YouTube as well. Hey, thanks for watching. I am Judith, the TV. Good night.